Hey fam, I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Zorina, and today we're going to continue on the relationship series. But today I want to take it just a little bit different than talking about being single and, finding your spouse. Let's say you know, you're married and you found a spouse and you're considering having children. So that's what I want to talk about, the children and the importance of caring for those children. And, I think there is a lot that's going on right now in the world. So much perversion, sexual perversion that's going on. And there's just a serious alarm going off for the need to care for the children. I think we have become, as parents, so caught up in the day to day hustle of life that sometimes we're not caring for the children as well as we ought. That village is not there like it was probably some when our parents were growing up and things like that. A lot of us have moved away from our extended families, and so we don't have that connection and that those aunts and uncles and those grandparents that will kind of step in and help with children, whatever's going on with them. So I think it's just so important that we have a discussion about the children and whether your children, if you're a mother or a father, or if you're just caring for children in, some aspect of your life. Um, so, excuse me. The Bible talks a lot about the children, and children are a gift from God. And the fact that God gives you a child and calls them a gift, that means that you should honor what God has given you. Do not take them for granted because you're going to get old one day. You're not going to be 20 or 30 something forever. God willing, you will grow old. And how you tend to your children emotionally and physically is extremely important. God sees all of it, and He is not going to take it lightly that you may have not cared for the gift that He has given you. And so I just have one scripture that I want to focus in on because it sums it all up. There's several scriptures that are that speak to children, but this one here I think is necessary to keep top of mind. If you're watching this video, it's very likely you're an adult, and you can probably speak to where your parents may have neglected some things in regards to caring for you. And some of that is just because, life gets hard. And, sometimes it is a lot to juggle several things and keep a household running. But I just want to talk to you about, you know, you have to care not just for the child in things, okay? The things don't matter. The children are in need of you, your time, your conversation, and not condemning them all the time, but a conversation where you're listening to them. A lot of us, will get so wrapped up in work, and then when you're not working, you're so stressed out from working, and you're dealing with bills and you're dealing with all the things that are coming. But somewhere in there, you need to hit pause on all of that noise, because it doesn't matter as much as this little human that God has given you. And the problem is that a lot of times we are not listening. We are not listening to even understand. You take it for granted that they're just a kid, right? Or, depending on the age that we're talking about. But even at 4 years old, they have something to say. And there are things that even a 4-year-old can say that will make you pause as an adult and focus. Because there are some 4-year-olds that seem like they've been here before and they're not impressed with what they're seeing, right? So I want to take you to Jeremiah 1, verse 5. And in Jeremiah 1:5, some of you may already know this, but it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew and approved of you as my chosen instrument. And before you were born, I separated and set you apart, consecrating you, and I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." For every adult that has done something great with their life, of course, they were once a baby, a toddler, a child. And I think when you're a parent, you sometimes, not all, but some, forget that you are shaping the next generation, that you are responsible for nurturing them in all aspects. You know, throwing gifts at them is cool sometimes, right? Because, you know, of course, a child wants that occasionally, but then you find out they only play with one out of the 20 things you gave them. But really, ultimately, what they want is your time. They want to know that you're listening to them. And, you know, in past videos, I have mentioned that that I was out of work before, laid off during the 2008 recession. And I remember the Lord, he did say to me that this is a time to focus on the kids. Now, of course, my focus was also, you know, trying to find a work, but I used it also as an opportunity to be there for my children. You know, and I think I may have mentioned before, I have 2 sons, but, you know, so I made breakfast. I've always been that parent that listened and asked questions, and, you know, it was important to me that they felt heard and that they felt understood. But I was also that parent that believed in discipline. So, you know, my sons now are adults, but I have a great relationship with my sons, and still, you know, I listen to them. I hear them out, and I try not to inject my own bias or over opinions, especially now because they're adults, you know. So if they ask me for my opinion or insight, which, you know, I am honored at the fact that they do, the fact that my sons are adults and they come to me and ask me for wisdom and insight, I feel honored. It makes me feel as if I've done something right, that they respect my opinion. So, you know, and I know that there's a lot of adults that did not have that opportunity to have a parent that listened and cared. They were more spoken to, which is probably my generation. We were spoken to, we were talked at, we were not given much time to be heard. And so when that happens, your children end up hearing their friends, hearing the streets, hearing the TV, hearing the videos, hearing the game systems. They're hearing, and now this generation, you know, the stuff that they're seeing and hearing. I mean, I saw a video, or a commercial rather, of a video game. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this video game, I don't know if it was Xbox or PlayStation, but it looked like a depiction of hell, literally. And I'm thinking, there is no way in this world that I would allow a video like that in my home for my kids to watch. It is programming something in their mind. And you may say, oh, it's just a video game. No, it's not. None of this is just a video game. None of this now is just a music video. None of it is just a concert. None of it is just, a TV show or a movie, you have to filter some of this. The kids now are hearing and seeing too much too soon. And we as parents are failing miserably at being engaged and being that filter in front of the kids. And when your children have friends, invite those kids over, meet those parents, listen in. And yes, I do mean listen in. If you gotta, if they're in the kitchen, you need to be at somewhere in the corner. Just hear what the conversations are like, because that you need to understand where their influence is coming from, because influence on children come from every single direction. And if you have a daughter, and I will speak to sons because I didn't raise daughters, but I was a mentor for little girls. And I tell you, woo, there were times when I would pick up the little girl, and there were conversations that she had no business knowing. In the third grade, there were things that she was well spoken on. And I was just sitting there with my eyes just blinking like, what in the world? And, there's a fine line of, I wasn't her parent, but I was also, at the time of having her, I would say a guardian over her. And so, I would talk to her about the things that she knew and the things that probably was something that shouldn't be her concern in the third grade. And, and it was awful because she had a father that promised her things but never showed up to deliver. She was a little girl, beautiful little girl, that was severely disappointed by her father that gave empty promises because he could not, live up to the responsibility of truly being a father. And, so she had anger issues. Now, that's what I learned and was told, but that was not my experience with her. So, these children are in these different programs because they're not getting their needs met at home. And I don't care how much money you make or whether you're on the high end of the spectrum salary wise or on the low end, we all can make time. We all can make time to laugh with our children, to talk to them. And then you need to stop talking and start listening. Start listening and engaging them like little adults. Of course the conversation has to come down to their intellectual level, but you need to start talking to them. So when they tell you a story about what happened at school, say, wow, really? So what did you say, or what did you think about that? And get a dialogue going, because that lets them that tells them they are heard, that you are open to understanding. And sometimes if you're in the kitchen doing something, stop what you're doing and turn and face them with that conversation, or tell them to come around this side so I can see your face while you talk to me. And, and that way they feel that you are there for them. Children are very receptive, and you know that because we were all children. We are very receptive to when we are welcomed and when we are told to leave without being told to leave. You can see it in the face of your parent. You can see it in their tone that they are not interested in what you're saying or you being even in the room. So I want to just, tell you, it is really, a lot of times I think, especially as women, we are all excited about the thought of getting married and, meeting my Boaz and, and all of that. We grow up in this fantasy world almost. But I will tell you, marriage is a beautiful thing. I am open still to it, even though I've gone through a divorce. But I will be honest with you, it is work. I mean, it is work because you're dealing with someone that may be thinking different than you. You know, you're dealing with someone that sometimes may mirror you, that will tell you about yourself, you know, and vice versa. So you have to be able to navigate all of those different emotional conversations that you will have in the marriage. Then you bring in a child, and that changes the narrative completely. Then you may bring in another child, and now you and your spouse may feel further and further apart as you're bringing in more children. So think about all the things, and I'm not saying not to do it, but slow down. You know, slow down, because if you don't know who you are, if you haven't built a relationship with God, when you become one with a man or one with a woman, and then you start having children, it is going to be very demanding. And you have to know how to deal with the demand that is going to be on your life. Um, I used to tell my sons, well, I still do. I've done my 18 years, and I'm not doing 18 years to life. You know, I've done my 18 years, and that's, uh, using that analogy, like you've been in jail. But I will be honest with you, being a mother to my sons, especially when they were boys, was one of the things still to this day that I am most proud of. And because I knew that the odds were against me to be a good mother. And because of that, I prayed um, every trimester of my pregnancy. I have two sons. And so, with both of my sons, I prayed over them while I was still pregnant, every trimester, that they were developing properly, that what they needed in their bodies was developing within that trimester according to, medical science, according, of course, to God. So that they would, I would birth a healthy child. And then my prayer, and I had my children in my early 20s, and then my prayer after I had my sons, as they went from infant to baby to toddler to child to teenager to young adult, was for God to teach me how to mother them at the stage and age that they are, so that I grew with my children. And I will be honest, God has honored that prayer. And because I knew that God gave me my sons as a gift, as soon as I had them, I gave my sons back to the Lord, and asked Him to help me raise them, to help me be the mother that they needed. Not because each child is different. You could have 10 kids, and I'm sure those parents will say every one of those 10 kids are different. You can read the Bible and tell that every individual from the same parents are different. So I had to learn how to parent my second child different than my first child. And because their personalities were different. And so that was something I had to learn to navigate. And, you know, and being a parent, especially being a mother, it is the most beautiful job you will ever have, the most demanding job you will ever have. It will also be probably the least paid job you'll ever have, with probably minimal rewards involved. We are expected. Society has put an expectation on the mother to always be there, in sickness and in job loss, in worry and stress of all sorts. We are expected still to have capacity for the children. And so I just want to leave you guys, make sure you read that verse, because if God knows your child before the child was even conceived, knew the child in your womb, then that means that God knows your child and what that child is going to become, then more than you will ever know. God knows your child better than you will ever know. God has an appointed time to blossom that child, that young adult, that person into what he was created for at the appointed time in a lifetime that he or she is needed. And because you don't know that as the parent, you need to be careful about how you handle that child. You need to be mindful. And I will say that the mother and the father is both needed. The fathers are needed for daughters, definitely. You are the protection that that little girl needs. You are that man that that little girl will look up to for all of her days, that she will model, how you have treated her when she is deciding on a spouse. So the father is greatly needed. And some fathers, I think, and mothers think because you have a daughter that the father is not needed. No, 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 no. Oh, on the contrary. And we're seeing that all over the place. When I see what these girls are dressing like and looking like, how they are being handled by men, there is a dire need for men to step into their position, and I talk to my sons often about, and I don't have any grandchildren, but it is important that they understand the responsibility of the child that they have had, and they need to be a father by all means necessary. Stand in that place of partnering with that mother, whether you are with her or not, co-parent if you're not married. But we're going to do things according and to the way that God needs and wants things done as we move forward. And so in that union, make sure, dads, that you do have a lot of responsibility of keeping that family together and bringing in the money and making sure that things are moving correctly and being that covering over your family. Somewhere in there, make sure you always make time to hear your children, to talk to your children. I don't care if you have to take a day off or go into work late so that you can take them to school. Be present. You will get old one day. So be present while you are young enough to be present. And whatever it is that you missed in your childhood from your father, if that is the case, make sure that you bring that to the table for your child so that that generational issue ends back there, and you don't carry that on into your child, and then your child has a child. You want those issues to end behind you, and you are changing the trajectory of your family structure as you move forward. And moms, if you have sons, you play just as much of a role, because you want your son to marry a good woman. You want your sons to marry a woman that you can say, that's my daughter, not just my daughter-in-law, but my daughter, because you love her as much as you love your sons. And so you have to present yourself as the woman that your sons will admire and will look for similarities how you carry yourself, how you present yourself, when you go out in the world, how you look, like all of those things. Children are recorders, tape recorders. That's so, what is that? So 80s, a tape recorder. But children are tape recorders. They are visually watching, they're listening, and they're making a recording of that. And they're paying attention to facial expressions, the energy that's coming from you, good and negative. So be careful. If you are a mother and you're a single mother, please be careful with dating and bringing men around your children. When I say I was extremely careful, because I would probably still be in jail today. So, God knows me. I was like, Lord. So I never left my children with a man that I dated, and I never, allowed them to just be in my home and stay the night. And even though I have sons, boys can be touched wrongly and molested and just all the things. You have to be a parent first, or don't be one. And I'm going to just end it right there. So I appreciate your time. This one touches, very close to me. And so I'm very adamant about caring for children. I've always had a heart for children. And, and when I raised my children, I put everything that was in me into my sons. And so, I think it's a huge responsibility to care for a little human that is going to go out into the world and make good choices or not, based on what happened to them in their childhood. So be wise in the decisions you make. Be very wise in how many children you have. And be wise about becoming a parent even. I think it's a beautiful thing to become one, but there is a time and a season for all of it. So keep all of this in mind, and as you're dating and, and now that you're getting married and you found your Boaz, or you with your Esther, and children are on the way, keep all of this in mind. Make sure that God is in the middle of it. Make sure God is helping you be the right parent. You are not your child's friend. Until they can move out and take care of themselves, you are not their friend. They need friends that are their age. You are their parent. Don't get that twisted. Don't start that friendship stuff. I don't let my sons are now, they're able to be my friends, but there is still a level of respect that I still demand. And I'm saying that if your child is 18 and under, you're not their friend. I don't have friends that young. To me, that would be weird. For me to have a friend that's 14, no, I don't do friendships that young. So be their parent and be mindful that that is your responsibility and your role. And I'm just going to stop and leave you with that. We are going to wrap up this relationship series with your relationships at work. That will be the last video that I will do in this series, and I look forward to seeing you there. Please thumbs up the video. This is going to get the videos out to more people that need to know the Lord, that need to know just how to navigate all things within their Christian walk, or even bringing them to the Lord. The whole reason for these videos is to bring people into the kingdom. We are not here for entertainment. This is about bringing people into the kingdom and helping them, strengthening them through their walk with the Lord. So yes, subscribe, thumbs up, share, and God bless, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.